Welcome to Penalty Box Radio Live. I am your host, Ann Kimmel. I am, of course, usually joined by co-host Sean Smith, also of Penalty Box Radio. But tonight, I want to welcome in our guest co-host, Alex Daugherty from the Tennessean. This is the part of the show where Sean is forced to make nice with me. But since he's not here, Alex, it says in the notes, make nice with Alex.
So what does that mean exactly? Make nice? Are you normally angry at him or?
I think I'm delightful.
Okay.
But it's really nice for me to know that on Wednesday nights somebody has to speak kindly to me.
Oh,
so
I
want to give that to you.
I think you are a wonderful host of the show, and I think you so far are doing a better job than Sean does normally. So
Sean is fired. Alex is in.
there you go.
Yeah. So Alex, just checking in. Of course, team was gone in Sweden for a while. Did you do anything fun in the little bit of media downtime that we had?
Definitely not. No, I was mostly just focused on trying to figure out how to cover this team for the next 62 games because we've got a long way to go if it's going to look like what we've seen the first 20 games, as you well know. I mean, yeah.
There's some dog years to this.
Yeah, exactly.
If it keeps going.
6 wins in the first 20 games. It's exactly the number of wins they had last year, which I know we'll talk about, but man, it is just I hate to start it on such a down note, but it feels like that's the biggest thing that's going on right now is this team is just awful, right? Like they're not getting it together, and what are we in for the next 4 months?
Well, the next couple of seasons is where we're going to start with our puck drop topic. And before I ask you the question, Alex, I want to put some context to this. So, of course, while the teams were in Sweden, Barry Trotz had this really neat sit-down conversation. The NHL filmed this in Stockholm with the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Kyle Dubas, and discussing kind of their respective teams and what's going on with their teams and general managing. And Barry Trotz made an interesting comment, and I'm going to ask you about this for our puck drop topic. Barry Trotz said, quote, "We are in that transitional phase. I don't want to say a rebuild. We sort of are, but I just call it a build. We're starting to build." Mm-hmm. So we've heard terms build. We've heard the term youth movement. We've heard the term retool. The puck drop topic question is this, Alex. What is behind the hang up or the specificity or the avoidance of particular language? Like, why is the word rebuild kind of off limits with Barry Trotz?
Probably because he associates it with having to go through a number of down years, and he's maybe if he comes out and says that the team is going to go through a rebuild, it's some sort of signal to the franchise and the fans that the next few years are going to be bad. The irony, of course, is that is exactly what's happening. And so it's like it doesn't make any sense why he's not just saying it. And I think he also is maybe trying to put some spin on it. I mean, I think this no, it's a transition. No, it's a build, not a rebuild. I mean, it feels very much like a rebuild to a lot of people, except for the fact that they're spending all this money on free agents and they have these huge contracts that they can't get rid of, and they're playing veteran players over younger players. I mean, even just the idea of trading for Eric Holla. I'll keep going back to that. Mm-hmm. You know, you can say what you want about the contracts they signed last summer that seem to not be working out. Then they doubled down with it by going and getting someone like Eric Holla and then trading for Michael Bunting and getting, more 30-year-old, I think Bunting's 29, 30 and 30, around 30 years old players to just plug in the lineup over guys who are in the American Hockey League who maybe need a chance. So it's just like I feel like Barry Trotz is trying to spin this into just trying to tell people this is not a rebuild, even though that's exactly what we're seeing. The result that we're seeing is exactly what you would see in a rebuild.
Yeah. Well, and I think I agree with you. I think the language is very intentionally chosen, but I also think, as you're saying, what is going to happen is what is going to happen. Now, I do think people have this idea that in the very, sort of traditional sense of the word rebuild, what it is you like clear house, tear it down to the studs,
right,
rebuild with young players. And like you mentioned in passing, that's simply not going to be exactly what this looks like because of the contracts that are on the books. It's not like you can clear house in the next 60 some games, 62 games and say, okay, look, we're in a rebuild, So I think he's trying to set the expectation that it's not a fire sale.
Yeah.
But you got to do something.
I think also I also don't know how many GMs in any sport have said, yeah, we're gonna rebuild things here. I mean, there've probably been a few, but I can't think of any. But it's probably just not a thing that people like to talk about. They would rather just go through the process. And I mean, we don't know all of the conversations that are happening between Barry Trotz and his general man, his front office staff, and the ownership with Bill Haslam, and guys like Sean Henry. I mean, we don't know exactly what those conversations are like right now, but there could be an element of, hey, we know things are not going well. Here's why we think we're going to get through it in the end, and it's because we got all these draft picks, we got these great prospects, we got things coming up that'll be exciting, but right now it's going to stink. So
yeah,
just be patient.
Just heads up on this. It feels like the word rebuild, and I'm dating myself with this analogy, but go with me. Do you remember Happy Days? Did you watch Happy Days growing up?
No. I did not watch Happy Days growing up. I know what Happy Days is, but I did not watch it growing up.
Okay, well, somebody in this room did.
Yeah.
Loved it. Huge. Like, I won't even start on Henry Winkler and how much I love him, because that's a show for another day. But one of the things that his character, Fonzie, could never say were the words, "I'm sorry." And he would be like, and I feel a little bit like that's where we're at with Barry Trotz. Yeah. Like, the word rebuild is just not going to be something that's in his vocabulary.
Right.
And it's interesting because obviously, I mean, you look here and something has to happen. Like, this cannot be the plan for the next couple of seasons.
Right.
And I will say this, Barry Trotz, even when he came in, go back to the original youth movement, before the 2024, veterans were going to try to be a contender way back when, and, in the olden days. Barry Trotz, even when he was talking about what he wanted to do as a general manager, he was very clear that, like, there are going to be veteran pillars. Like, there was Yossi, there was Saros, there were Forsberg, and they were going to be the three pillars at the three positions that were going to shore up this youth movement. So Barry Trotz is not no veteran kind of guy. Like, no action he's going to take is going to eliminate a veteran presence in the locker room.
And he shouldn't. I mean, that you gotta have that. But the amount of the lineup right now, I mean, what we've seen with this roster right now, the lineup right now, even just today, they did a little bit of adjusting in practice with some lines, but it's basically the same. There are four players in the forward part of the lineup, 4 players 23 years old or younger. One is in the top 6. So 2 are in the top 6, Wood and Evangelista. The other 2 are fourth liners right now, Svechkov and Weisblatt. Everyone else, older veterans.
They've seen Happy Days.
Maybe.
This is a lineup that is probably very familiar with Happy Days.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, they're younger than me, and I haven't seen it, so that's something. But
okay. We're right back there again, aren't we, Alex? There we are. Yeah. When you look at the veterans in the room, no matter what Barry Trotz does, and we can get into this a little bit later on in the show, but when you look around the room and you look at the veterans, who are the ones that you think Barry Trotz wants to have the most influence when he somehow, as he brings in some more of these younger players? Do you think he has some pinpointed, or do you feel like in this situation it's all out on the table?
So are you saying, like, which ones are ones that are definitely going to stick around and have more of a leadership role in the future with the team?
Yeah. Like, how much of the leadership group that's in there now do you think Barry Trotz is willing to part with?
Probably a lot of them, except I would say that of the ones, the one that I think is going to stick around and is, like, definitely not going to go anywhere, or the 2 that are going to stick around and definitely not go anywhere, would be Forsberg and Yossi. Those are the 2. Forsberg is signed for the next 4 years beyond this. Yossi is 2 years beyond this. Those, I think, are not going to go anywhere. If anything, just because they're lifers, right? They're the career points leader and the career goals leader, captain and assistant captain. They're not going anywhere. And also Forsberg, as you've seen this year, has been more of a role model leader with some of the younger guys like Wood and Brady Martin when he was here.
Yep.
So those 2 are going to stay. Everyone else, who knows? I think Ryan O'Reilly could be gone. We'll see what happens with Stamkos and Marchessault. I think those are just harder to deal with because
Right.
the contracts are harder to deal. McCarron, Halla, Bunting, all those guys could easily be dealt.
Yeah.
So the only two, so I guess the answer is the only two that I think could be part of the leadership of the future for this team are Forsberg and Yossi. And we're not counting Saros, but I would say he's probably not going anywhere either.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to see what Barry Trotz does. He definitely has some decisions that he needs to make, because one of the things that I think the Predators need to tackle to kind of move this in a direction is going to be roster construction. Of course, you can't have a conversation about roster construction and a rebuild, youth movement, retooling without talking about what is in the pipeline. Coming up, we're going to talk with Penalty Box Radio's own prospects guru about who may be legitimate key players for this team and what positional needs may keep the Predators from a quick turnaround. First, I want to tell you about Tennessee Valley Paving. Tennessee Valley Paving is a third-generation, family-owned and operated company serving Middle Tennessee since 1957. They handle everything from driveway and parking lot paving to municipal and commercial projects, and even specialty work like tennis courts and aviation pads. They're bonded, hold an unlimited license, and ready to serve your paving and sealing needs. Call Tennessee Valley Paving today at 615-794-2351 or visit TennesseeValleyPaving.com. Tennessee Valley Paving, serving the region with quality you can count on. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio Live. If you are looking for the best spot to catch every Predators game, you need to head over to East Nashville's favorite sports bar, Beyond the Edge. With over 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you'll never miss a moment. They've got you covered for lunch, dinner, and late night, serving food all the way until 2 a.m. Plus, enjoy happy hour every weekday from 2 to 6, and don't miss 2-for-1 Sundays. That's Beyond the Edge, 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville. Your home for every game. All right, Alex, we've been talking about what's going to happen with the Predators, and you, of course, have to talk about what is in the pipeline. Right now, we are welcoming in Eric from Penalty Box Radio. Eric covers all things prospects. He keeps close tabs on prospects in the NCAA, juniors, the AHL, international leagues, watches hours of footage of Nashville's young talent, and of course shares his thoughts in articles and a monthly prospects report as well. Eric, thank you so much for jumping on and joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and chat prospects.
Yeah, we love having something positive to talk about. So you are the ray of sunshine that we need right now. I want to kick off talking about one of the prospects that we don't get to see very much here, but that I think is somebody that we need to keep on the radar as we look ahead the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. What can you tell us about Igor Surin's season in the KHL? And also, what does his availability look like when it comes to eventually transitioning to North America hockey?
Yeah, obviously the Preds drafted him 2 summers ago at this point, and last year in a full-time role, half full-time, half part-time role in the KHL, did pretty well for himself, 14 points, 41 games, but this year he's really broken out through 29 games as of today, 12 goals, 22 points, one of the leading junior scorers in the KHL. And part of that is, his team, Yaroslav Lokomotiv, is one of the best teams in the KHL. I think they're second in the standings today, but he leads all U21 players in scoring league-wide, and is, playing a lot of minutes with Alexander Radulov, which I'm sure many folks will have thoughts on. But, I think this year's going just about as well as you could hope. The kind of question mark here is, he recently signed a contract extension in Russia that will take him through 2026, 2027. So this season and next season, at that point, he will still only be 20 years old. So, it's not like we're wasting, his entire 20s over in Russia. And I think the team will be pushing hard then to bring him over and sign him at that point.
Yeah, he is one of those prospects that not only I think will fans really want to see on the ice, this is also one of those guys that I think fans are really going to like off of the ice. So it's going to be great when eventually he does make his way over here. What is something in Surin's game that you think is really going to help, that's really going to be an addition to the Predators and where they need to go here in the next couple of seasons?
Yeah, I think the thing that's really popped this year for him is, one, showcasing that he can score against, professionals. He's still just 19 years old. But 2, it hasn't just been the kind of off the rush scoring that we saw a lot of when he was playing junior hockey. He is strong, he's quick, and he can kind of barrel down the wing and snipe pucks past goalies. But this season, I think we've seen a lot more maturity in his end zone game, in his passing game, in kind of developing plays in the offensive zone over longer periods of time, and finding those options, maybe not the most obvious pass, but the next one that sets a teammate up for a better chance. So there's definitely some maturity going on there. And this team needs young players that can score. And this is a 19-year-old who's scoring nearly a point per game in, one of the best leagues in the world outside of the NHL. So,
Eric, Alex here. I want to ask you a kind of a general question about the overall prospect situation, because I feel like there's a lot of hope out there with the forward group. And I want to stick to the forwards here for a second, because I think there's a lot of really good talent with, like you mentioned, Surin, Teddy Stiga, Riker Lee. I think Aiden Fink, I don't know his ceiling, but like there's something there. And then of course Brady Martin, who they just drafted. Do you think that this particular situation that the Predators have with their forwards is one of the better ones, like one of the better kind of groups that they've had in terms of like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds set up, even though the center situation still isn't great, that the talent level of like who they have ready to bust out in the next 3, 4, 5 years is better than they've had in the past, at least in the last like several years or so?
I think it is, yeah. And I think it's, in the better half of the league for sure. I think you kind of mentioned something there that is still the big question mark. The center depth is still not amazing. And even if, someone like Brady Martin hits, R. Martin and someone like Fedor Svechkov, you're like 1C, 2C for the next 10 years. Like, I'm not ready to go that far yet, right? Yeah. And, they made the trade for David Edstrom when they moved Jaroslav Askarov. I think Edstrom has struggled a bit to adjust to North America. There's a lot of really good talent here, but I still think that there is like a kind of game-breaking element that just isn't quite found in one particular prospect. I think you throw a guy like Surin and Kemmel and Evangelista and, maybe Aiden Fink one day all together, and you got a lot of guys who can score a goal when you need one. But can you count on those guys, to all put up, 60, 70 points a year? Probably not.
Riker Lee, let's talk about him for a second, because there's been a couple of clips out there. Well, first of all, his first goal was pretty incredible. I thought that was just a really electric, it's not every day you see a Predators prospect score a goal like that. But then recently there's a clip of him basically dribbling the puck down the ice.
This was amazing.
I don't think it was very like Philip Forsberg-esque kind of situation. So with Michigan State, I know he's had a pretty good start. I mean, it's 3 goals, 4 assists, and 10 points. You can give us maybe some perspective on like where that fits into the grand scheme of things in college hockey. But is he as good as maybe we think he could be? I mean, it certainly looks like he's got a ton of skill.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big question that was facing him going into this year was there was no question he was going to be in a great environment. Michigan State is, one of the best teams in the country. They've got serious national title hopes. They're steamrolling teams right now. Like, he is playing in a perfect environment. But the big question coming out of junior was, okay, this guy can do all sorts of things with the puck, but are his feet going to give him a chance to actually do those things against quicker, stronger players? And so far, I've been pleasantly surprised that, not only has the skating been less of an issue than I thought it would this early in his college career, but he's been able to demonstrate that skill that, a lot of freshmen in college hockey probably wouldn't try. And again, great environment he's playing in, but I think that this isn't a situation where, we're waiting until like the very end of college to see if like Matthew Wood skating comes along where it's like NHL ready. Like he's making bigger strides earlier on than I think we kind of expected.
Interesting.
Eric, I wanted to ask you about another college hockey player, and I think this is a topic that a lot of fans have some concerns about, and that has to do with the goalie situation down the road. What can you tell us about Jack Ivankovic? You had a great article at Penalty Box Radio out last week talking about his development. What do you like about him, and what do you see from his game that you think could translate to the NHL level?
Yeah, I mean, I said Michigan State's one of the best teams in the country. Yep. The other, team up there is Michigan, right? And it's going to be a bloodbath from, now to the end of the year. I kind of posited the question in my article, like, what happens if Ivankovic leads the Wolverines to a national title this year, right? Is he one and done? Does he go right to the AHL? He's played in all 14 games for Michigan. He's got 11 wins. 914 save percentage, 2 shutouts. He is statistically one of the top 3 goalies in the country by a pretty significant margin this year, and hasn't had a lot of off nights. You look at, pretty much all the goals that he's given up even strength this year, and they're all just kind of like, kind of a mental error there, or that's just going to happen from time to time, like nothing too crazy. He is not the most athletically gifted, prospect. He's not the biggest prospect, but it's just like the technique is so sound that, very rarely do you see him out of position, and very rarely do you see him not ready to challenge a shooter. I think end of this year is going to be really interesting. Canada is going to be bringing 3 goalies to the World Juniors, including him, most likely, all of whom have an argument to be the starter. And it'll be really interesting to see how that develops, who plays when, and like if anyone kind of grabs the net. But I'll be watching that pretty closely here next month and into January.
So speaking of World Juniors, are we to assume that Brady Martin is going to make it for Canada, or is that not an assumption we should make right now? I've only sort of been paying attention to how he's been doing at the Sioux, and I mean, I know he had a crazy night a couple weeks ago where he had a ridiculous goal, between the legs goal. But is he a lock to make the World Juniors at this point, or what do you think?
I hesitate to say locked, only because every year Canada kind of does something a little crazy, but I would be very shocked if he is not on the roster headed to Minnesota. Yeah, it would be pretty stunning, I would say.
Okay.
All right, Eric, we are going to have to let you go. Unfortunately, so much good information about the prospects, but of course, people are going to have lots more questions and want more information about the pipeline. So will you let everybody know where they can find you and your work?
Sure, yeah. Well, I write for Penalty Box Radio, penaltyboxradio.com, and then on Twitter, you can find me at OnTheFuturePBR.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric from Penalty Box Radio, giving us some insight into the prospect pipeline. Now that we've learned a little bit more about prospects from Eric, what do we know for sure about the team after the Global Series as it stands now on the roster? We're going to review the games in Sweden and talk about what we know 20 games in coming up. But first, let me tell you about Green Ventures. Green Ventures is your local family-owned landscaping company dedicated to making your outdoor space look its best. From lawn care and seasonal cleanups to full landscape design, they bring the tools, the team, and the know-how to get the job done right. Whether it's your home, your business, or your neighborhood, Green Ventures keeps Middle Tennessee green and growing. Head over to greenventureslandscaping.com today and let Green Ventures bring your yard to life. This segment of Penalty Box Radio Live is brought to you by Legacy Pest Management, a local veteran-owned company right here in Middle Tennessee. If you're dealing with ants in the kitchen, spiders in the garage, termites, or even mosquitoes, these are the people you call. They're professional, reliable, and they actually show up when they say they will. Go to legacypesttennessee.com or schedule a free, no-obligation inspection by calling 615-784-5207. That's 615-784-5207. Legacy Pest Management, locally owned and trusted by families across Middle Tennessee.
One thing that's great about wintertime, not to say that people shouldn't patron the sponsor there, but the best thing about wintertime is the lack of bugs.
No mosquitoes.
Bugs go away for a while.
Although, do you know what we are having a problem with at our house? And actually, I'm like, I need to call these guys. And that's not like a fake pitch.
Yeah.
Those fake ladybugs. You know, wannabe ladybugs?
Yeah.
You're like, you want us to think you're something precious, but really you're just annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladybugs are pretty annoying anyways, but.
Yeah. These like fake wannabes.
Yeah.
Don't have time for that. All right. Nashville Predators, of course, were at the Global Series in Sweden. They have returned to the continental United States. Alex, back at practice today, we got to see the players, Roman Josi, on the ice for Nashville, which is a good sign. We don't have any definite word on his return. But this was kind of our first chance to talk to Andrew Brunette and the players after the Global Series. You had a chance in the scrum at practice. You asked Andrew Brunette what I thought was a great question. You know, one of the things that we have heard from Andrew Brunette is that while the results may look similar at this point in the season, he feels like the season feels different than last season. But again, you come back to the results are the same. So You asked Andrew Brunette about this today, and this is what Andrew Brunette had to say about that. When you asked that question and got that answer, Alex, what did you kind of think? Do you agree or disagree with what Andrew Brunette is kind of saying about this really is two different seasons?
Well, he sort of gave an answer that it's impossible to really disagree or agree with. He said the vibes are better. He said like things are better. Yeah, I mean he's giving us an intangible that makes it very difficult to discern whether or not that's true. I mean, if he tells me the vibes are better and the people are more connected and everything, that's great. I mean, I applaud that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the results matter, and they are. You know, one thing he said, I actually don't remember if it's in that clip or not, but it's somewhere in today's answer. He talked about they're better in front of their goaltender.
Yes.
And I think to some extent that's true, but again, the numbers don't really say that because they are. I'm getting this from Money Puck. In terms of expected goals against, last year they were 29th in the league in expected goals against, meaning they were the fourth worst team in expected goals against. This year they are the second worst team. So they are basically no better than they were last year, technically speaking, on the expected goals against. They've gotten a little better goaltending from UC Soros. That's the difference in terms of their defensive effort. And even that has been a little bit less of lately. But okay, so he says they're being better in front of the goaltender. He says that the vibes are better. All that is great. It's just not leading to anything. It's not leading to the offense is just bad. The defense has been leaky, and they have 6 wins in 20 games. So it's like I guess I have to agree with them, but I don't see it. I don't see the results.
Yeah.
So.
I want to touch on what he was talking about the vibes, because one of the things that we hear a lot is people saying the vibes must be bad in the locker room. And, you know, I always say as media, it's a little bit like a bikini. Like we don't see everything. We see a lot, but we don't see everything.
Exactly.
But in the time this season with this roster, 20 games in, and again, this is an immeasurable kind of the intangible, but in the locker room, do you feel like the vibes are different? Do you feel like the vibes are different as somebody who was there all last season and that's here so far?
I mean, maybe a little bit. There was a little bit of, today's practice was interesting. There were, I detected a little bit more of like an intensity today's practice. It was pretty physical out there.
Yeah.
A lot of, there were no practice fights, nothing like that. I mean, we had the incident with Ryan O'Reilly. There was a moment where Ryan O'Reilly, just broke his stick over the bench wall because he had gotten beat on a one-on-one and he was just not in a great place. But so, I mean, I think in a way it feels like maybe they're more in line with each other. I think that's probably true. They're more maybe willing to hold each other accountable. Maybe they're like not operating in silos so much. They're kind of working as a team a little bit better. I think so. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think there's definitely, and there's maybe more of a leadership aspect with guys like we talked about Forsberg having a more of a leadership role. I think he's definitely done that with like Matthew Wood, and he did that with Brody Martin earlier in the year. The defense, there's constantly competition. You've seen this, like the practices are very heavily built on this competition, right? They do a lot of competition in between each other with like gold versus blue and defense versus forwards and all kinds of stuff. I think that, and it always seems to result in a better unity and a better like camaraderie and stuff. It's just like, again, what is this all leading to? What is this leading to? Like, oh, they're going to get it and they're going to go on a 10-game winning streak and they're all going to be great again. It's just, what does that really mean?
Yeah. I will say this one thing that I feel like that I have seen in these 20 games. And again, we'll come back and circle back to results. But one of the things that I feel like I've seen in these 20 games that really I don't remember seeing much of with any sort of consistency last season was you can see what they're trying to do in some of these games. Like, I feel like you're like, oh, I see, like that is how you're trying to play. Where last season, I feel like they ended the season looking as confused as they began the season. And so so far, I'm like, I can see what you're trying to do. But again, you circle back to the results aren't there. I think being honest, you just have to say, this team certainly does not look like a contender as it is right now. So it's not that nothing is different, but not enough is different, really.
You're right that the what you pointed out about there being visibly you can see kind of what they're trying to do. There were some games recently that I thought they looked really actually pretty good. I mean, like the game against Vancouver and Minnesota, they lost in overtime. And then the Dallas loss, and maybe even the Philly loss too. All these are losses, but it's like their 5-on-5 game looked incredible. Now then you had the Rangers game in which it did not look good, and nothing looked good. The Pittsburgh, the first game in Stockholm, they ended up winning. They were the better team that entire game. In addition to having a dramatic conclusion and everything, they really were the better team. It was pretty much all Nashville for most of that game, and then they had the second game. So there have been probably more games in which they've looked like a 5-on-5 team that can generate offense recently, but it's just like, I mean, they've lost 6 of 7, so it's like, can you really? How much are they going to be able to keep doing this in order to and not just give in and finally say, you know what, I don't care how good we're playing, we're not winning, and we need to start breaking this up.
Yeah. And I think in some ways the global series was sort of a microcosm of the season in the sense that, like you said, you had that first game where really, even diving into the advanced statistics, Nashville was the better team against Pittsburgh in the first game. But then you turn around and you have the second game where they really just aren't there for the first period. And let's be honest, if this team, this iteration of the team so far this season, you go down by 3 goals and it feels pretty over because this is a team that struggles to score goals. And I feel like there has been that inconsistency, that one of the comments Andrew Brunette made after one of the Global Series games was talking about not being able to gain traction. And I think sometimes you worry about that inconsistency because at some point inconsistency can become the identity. Like that can be what you're known for.
And we heard that last year, that not being able to gain traction, chasing the game, going down early and having to fight back and take risks and then give up odd man rushes, that kind of stuff. That's what we saw last year. We
Yeah.
saw a ton of that last year, where they would give up the first goal for first two goals, and then just like they just didn't have the scoring to get themselves out of trouble, right? Like that was what felt like that second Pittsburgh game really felt like last year to me. I mean, that Sunday game going down 3-0, having 2 shots in the first period, and then having those 4 power plays that didn't go anywhere, including a 5-on-3. That felt like last year's Predators right there.
Yeah. If, we were to say to you, okay, Alex, we're talking about inconsistencies. We're talking about not able to gain traction, yet seeing some, potential of what they're trying to do, and then not coming to fruition and kind of taking a trajectory that makes you think, hey, they're going to work their way out of it. All of that together, what is something you feel like for sure about this Nashville Predators roster and team right now? What do you know for sure?
I actually was trying to struggle. I was struggling with this earlier this week, trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I know for sure that I think Ryan O'Reilly is the only center on the team that I think there's any sense of like this player is one that can hold his own in the middle of the ice. That's so I know that. I know Forsberg looks like pretty much just like the same kind of quality goal scorer that he's always been. And I think that they have plenty of pieces that they can deal and add to the draft capital. I mean, I think they could easily deal O'Reilly, could easily deal Eric Halla, Michael Bunting, maybe even Michael McCarron if they choose to do that. But there is not, I guess, really, there's not a single aspect of this team that feels like this is something they can build on. There for a little bit there was with the penalty kill, but I don't see a penalty kill as something that's like,
that's not the spine of your game.
Yeah, if that's your strength, you're probably not very good, and I think that was the issue. So it's not a bad thing to have a good penalty kill. That's a good thing, but maybe that might be it. That they were a decent penalty kill team, and all that really takes is just having a bunch of really tough-nosed, hard-working guys, which is what Barry Trotz has decided he wants this team to be, and that's how they like to build their roster. So you get Michael McCarron and Cole Smith when he gets back, and Ozzy Weisblad and the guys in the back end. Those are all fine players. That it doesn't mean that none of those guys are going to go out and score 20 goals this season. So it's really really tough to watch a team that is their strength is in the penalty kill game.
Yeah, it's hard to say, what got this team to a Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Their penalty kill. The one thing that I feel like at 20 games in that I know for sure is that the whole is not the sum of its parts. And I don't know whether we're going to see that equation equal out in the remaining 62 games. This team currently is tied, I believe, for third worst in the league. I look at this roster and, I ask myself, is this really the third worst roster? Worst roster in the league? I think that there is more there. I just don't know if there is going to be something in 62 games that's going to bring it out and make you say, hey, we're getting enough from each of these players that collectively this team is going to gain some traction.
Yeah, I mean, like when you watch a game, it just depending on who's on the take any segment of any of the 60 minutes of a game, who is the player or the line or the combination that you feel most confident in? To me, it is when Forsberg and O'Reilly are out there. I feel like they're probably going to be able to at least prevent the other team from scoring and or get a good chance at the other end. That I feel pretty confident about that. And depending on who they're with. I mean, outside of that, it's like when you see any other combination of players, you just it's just like
it's hard to predict.
It's hard to see what's going to happen, but it certainly doesn't seem like anything good is going to happen. So is this the third worst roster? I think you could definitely make the argument that it is. I mean, there's not a lot of talent on this team that looks like it can make a difference, especially when we see teams like Colorado Avalanche come in or Florida that are coming in, or even like talented young teams like the Sharks and the Blackhawks or the Ducks. And it's like, who's the piece that you feel like this is what if this team could get hot, it's going to be because of this player,
Right.
I guess Forsberg is that guy, but
Yeah.
certainly can't be the only guy. I mean, like that, you can't. He's not that level of a talent that you can feel like, okay, well, Forsberg's going to carry them with 25 goals in the next 12 games to win them, to get them back in, the playoff push. Like, it's just not going to happen. He's not that good. He's great. He's a good goal scorer, but he's not Connor McDavid. He's not Austin Matthews. That's not his level. So is this a bad roster? I think that's probably at this point it feels like it is. It doesn't mean these guys are not trying hard, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like, this roster's they're all trying hard. I mean, they're not.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything about lost the locker room or anything out with Brett.
No.
They're working hard. They're not giving up out there. They just don't have the horses to carry them. I feel like at this point.
Yeah. Coming up, we are going to talk about what is ahead for the Nashville Predators. While it may be a little bit of a quieter PBR week, it is going to be no less compelling for the Preds. We're going to take a look at the schedule and talk through their challenges ahead. But first, if you are looking for barbecue in East Nashville, nothing is going to hit like Drifters Barbecue. Smoked slow and low, their pulled pork, ribs, and wings bring real smokehouse flavor. And at Drifters, it is not just about the food, it's the music. They've got live music every night, from Writers Night on Mondays to Bluegrass Sundays on their covered heated patio. Great food, great music, and the perfect East Nashville vibe. Drift over to Drifters Barbecue at 1008B Woodland Street in East Nashville. Slow, low, and local. Tennessee Valley Paving has been family-owned and operated since 1957, now in its third generation. From residential driveways to commercial lots, municipal roadwork, and specialty paving like tennis courts and aviation pads, they do it all. Plus, they offer sealing to protect your investment. Need paving you can trust? Call 615-794-2351 or visit TennesseeValleyPaving.com. Tennessee Valley Paving, trusted locally, built to last. All right, Alex, almost to the end of our show. And of course, we always like to preview the next PBR week, which is a Wednesday to a Wednesday. And this is getting juicy. Saturday night in Smashville, the Predators welcome in the Colorado Avalanche, a team that has lost one game in regulation.
Hey, you know, it'd be great for the Predators, who have won 2 games in the last 12, would be facing the #1 team in the NHL. That'd be great.
That is exactly how you get things right back on track, for sure. This is going to be a challenging game. And again, you know, we were just recently talking about rosters. You look at the roster that Colorado has, and it's, you know, just it's a beauty to look at. You know, Nathan MacKinnon right now has 14 goals, 33 points. Martin Necas came in. He has been such a great fit for Colorado, 13 goals, 25 points. Of course, Cale Makar, 25 points. The one I want to highlight, though, let's talk about the goaltending in Colorado. Do you remember a guy, Alex?
Yeah.
Yep, Scott Wedgwood. Wedgie. Yep, .917 save percentage, 11-1-2. He's just doing a fabulous job in Colorado. So what is the biggest challenge for Nashville Saturday night?
I mean, it's just the speed. They're such a fast team. They have speed everywhere. They have goals everywhere. They basically generate points or generate chances from everywhere, from the blue line, from the slot, from off the rush. They have an incredible power play. And they're tough defensively too. But honestly, most of the reason they're tough defensively is because half the time you're taking the puck out of your own net. So it's like you don't have time to go attack the other side.
Yeah.
They by the way, they have I don't think I realized this because the Predators haven't played them yet. Brent Burns, 40 years old, playing for them.
Love that. So he has watched Happy Days.
Yeah, he probably has. I mean, it's just like there could not be a harder matchup for the Predators right now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, this seems so obvious that the Colorado Avalanche are going to come in and roll.
You never know what's
I wouldn't be surprised if the Predators actually win that game.
I know, because who knows? Like, nothing is real anymore.
Weird. It's weird. NHL gets weird sometimes. It feels like that could be a weird game. You got Predators fans back in the building after a couple weeks off Saturday night. You never know. So, I mean, if I was betting, I wouldn't bet on the Predators to win, but you never know.
Yeah, you just never know. And then, of course, on Monday night, Nashville is going to be hosting Florida. Florida 10-8-1. Between now and then, Florida also has to play the New Jersey Devils and the Edmonton Oilers, so they're going to be coming in here. Okay, you want to talk about somebody who's living their best life? Brad Marchand is living his best life right now. Is Florida a team you think could three-peat? I know we're only 20 games in, but just go right there, Alex.
Well, no, because only because the injuries. I mean, like Barkov is going to be out for. Did they already say he's out for the entire? I think they did say he's out for the year, but
out.
So yeah, probably not without him. And I just think there's other teams that are better, including the Colorado Avalanche we just talked about. I think they're better. I think Dallas could challenge them. The East and Florida could still be a decent team in the East. I think whoever wins the Cup is going to come out of the West because the
West is stacked
between Colorado and Vegas and Dallas and even Winnipeg. I mean, like there's tons of really good teams. So I don't think Florida's going to repeat. I think it's probably time for that run to end at least in the current state.
Yeah.
And Florida, by the way, this year, I mean, like they're middle of the road. Like where are they standings wise? They're
middle of the pack in the Atlantic.
Yeah, 21 points. Predators have 16, so it's like they're not that far ahead. But the Panthers always play well against the Predators. I feel like they've beaten them a lot recently, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and of course that is in this PBR week. We will not have a show next Wednesday night because the Nashville Predators will be on the road in Detroit. Detroit, such a fun team to watch.
Just want to say we have on the YouTube chat, we have Jeremy Baker says, I've watched Happy Days.
We are now best friends.
Yeah, there we go.
Such a great show. I can't believe. Have you ever really? You've never really watched an episode?
I mean, no, I've seen like clips and stuff.
Okay.
No, I've never watched a full episode or anything. But
Well,
I know the lore behind it and everything. But that's all I can tell you.
I will just tell you, came home from school, sat down, and I spent some time with Henry Winkler. Just one of my all-time favorites. I met him in real life. Friends, he smells like heaven.
Wow,
I know that seems weird, but Henry Winkler is what heaven smells like. And he was the most delightful person.
And smelling Henry Winkler was not something I thought would be a topic on this conversation.
Not in a weird way. It was not as weird as it sounds when I say it out loud for a lot of people to hear.
No, it's all right.
So yeah, everybody check out Happy Days. Of course, check out the Nashville Predators. They are going to be back in action on Saturday again against the Colorado Avalanche. Going to be facing Florida and coming up Detroit, Chicago, and Winnipeg. So it's going to be an interesting stretch. Alex, thank you so much for jumping on as our guest co-host here at Penalty Box Radio. We
always
appreciate you and
love being here.
Your thoughts. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening to Penalty Box Radio Live, presented by Tennessee Valley Paving, Beyond the Edge East Nashville, Boston Commons, Green Ventures Landscaping, and Timber and Blade. We're going to see you again next week.